Welcome to CAM Resource Podcast, Episode 1, Electronic Voting. Today we're going to be talking about electronic voting and how it affects us in the community association world. Since I always have fun with this lady that's here with us today, I thought she'd be the perfect person to talk to us about electronic voting. Maureen, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Maureen Connolly. I work at First Service Residential as the Vice President of the Tampa, St. Petersburg, Sarasota market. And the reason that I'm so excited about talking about this with you, Dietta, number one, because you've been doing this for a long time and you know what you're doing. And both of us are big proponents of paperless voting. I'm really excited about it.
Yes, and I want to thank you for coming and talking to us today.
My pleasure.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with electronic voting and what your thoughts are on it?
So it passed a couple years ago. The legislature finally decided that they would, do the right thing and allow membership to vote over electronic means. And first of all, it made everyone really frightened. Change is scary for people, and elections are very serious. But I think they kind of changed their process away from the elections and towards voting membership votes, things that homeowners for years and years and years have tried to get membership votes approved. And first you have to reach a quorum, and then you have to have up to 75% of your members have to agree to the terms and conditions. And I think that those votes were unattainable. Even knocking door to door, people are traveling. So this electronic process is allowing boards to get the results quicker, pass things with less effort. And from my exposure, we only have one association that's done it. I'm very proud of them. I'm going to mention their name. It's Bayfront Tower condominium in downtown St. Petersburg. It was the first luxury high-rise in St. Petersburg, and we both have exposure. That's actually,
we love Bayfront.
We worked together there for a little bit. So it's just a great community, and it was seamless. It really was. Members voted electronically. Members can still vote the old paper method. You just combine the two tallies and have a result, and it really was seamless. They used their law firm at that time, and that's something we want to talk about today.
Yes, vendors and who can actually do the job for us.
Exactly.
So let's talk about that for a minute. So when you pass the resolution, which that's what you have to do
first step is pass the resolution
by the board of directors.
Just the board, which I think is great. You don't have to get a membership vote in order to do electronic voting. It's just the board. So I have the attorney draft it. I think that's a really good practice because there will be some people that might not want it, and that's the first thing they'll pick at is, did you do that properly? So have your attorney draft the resolution, put it on the agenda, notice board meeting, 48-hour notice, pass it, and you're on your way. It's really exciting.
That's great. So were there other vendors besides the attorney that could do it? And because as us managers, we usually provide bids or different vendors to see what the price would be. How did that part work for you?
So when First Service first heard about it, we actually, did the old Google thing. I Googled it and said, who's doing it? And there is a company that started, I think, in Maryland. Maryland is ahead of us in voting electronically.
Wow.
And they came this way, and I met them at a trade show, a local CAI trade show. And they actually held a webinar for First Service associates. So we all signed on, and we actually went through the election process. And I was super impressed. My biggest thing was the identity protection. So could you go on and vote for me at the condo association that I lived in? No, you can't. And they set up parameters around that. And that was what my concern was. Some of my other associates were really concerned with the ease of use. And I found out that if you can order on Amazon, you can do this online voting. It is that easy. There are little bubbles that you click. They don't make it complex. So the name of the company, maybe you could post to your website.
Oh yes, that'd be great.
They are phenomenal. We've actually seen them at a couple trade shows. Some associations are a little concerned about hiring an independent vendor. So I would recommend they talk to their attorney and see where they are in the process. Several local attorneys are making in a relationship with a provider. We know one. Do you want to say their name out loud?
Yeah. Or what we'll do is on the website, we'll list all the
That's good.
attorneys that are able to do this process.
Yeah, I think that's a baby step, right?
Yeah.
So your very own attorney has his own approved vendor. And they actually give discounts for their people that are their clients, and then some of them they have an external price, right? So if you're our client, there's a discount, which I think is good anyway. An association can save money, but I am very happy with that other vendor that is not linked to another attorney, and I'd love to use them.
So if we are looking at it, there are some other vendors that we could bring to our board. And
Yes.
I think it's always a good thing to use the attorney that might defend it later.
There you go.
So
Right?
yeah.
So if you think about it, the most contentious part of any vote is the vote for directors, because that's where everybody really wants their person to win, just like our last presidential election.
Right.
You kind of think of it that way, is, this is the leader of your association. So those are the ones that we are the most concerned about. But the ones that, and you usually don't have problems getting the 20% needed, to participate for the election. So that isn't really a quorum based or a membership based. It's those votes that the board and the membership form committees, and they just kill themselves. They have the ability to recess the meeting up to 90 days, and they're just trying, and it doesn't pass. And it sort of just eats at your soul.
Right.
To watch that as a manager, because they're all volunteers.
Right.
And it's just some negative feedback that makes people afraid to vote, or the size of that package that comes through, right? I see this. I live in a condo, and if
it lays on my desk,
right,
because I really don't have time to read the whole thing.
And I don't want to vote the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so, did you have any concern or find any difficult with people who are not computer savvy?
So, and you know what? No.
Okay.
I really didn't find that problem. I think that the one election I was involved in, they were all ready with their iPads. They have more electronics than I have. So I don't think that's going to be the problem. I think the misnomer is that if you allow electronic voting, that people can only vote electronically.
And I notice that's the first thought people have.
Right.
So I'm going to clear that up today.
Yes.
It's actually both.
It's actually both. So you can vote in the manner that's most satisfactory to you. So if you don't have a computer and you don't have any way to vote electronically, you can still vote the old way. And I love that about it. I actually will tell you, in the very beginning, I thought it meant no more paper voting. But it doesn't. And associations can, while they're doing the electronic voting resolution, also approve electronic notice. And I have seen a huge amount of our associations go to electronic notice.
Yes, I do that a lot. It saves so much. Saves so many trees.
And so much money.
Yes, and a lot of money. So I've already instituted that on many properties, and it works great.
It does work great. You do hear some negative feedback about the people that change their email addresses, and it's another job to monitor email addresses. I get it. I don't like to add more work to my day, but I think it's important to know that electronic age is here, and condos and HOAs and co-ops need to understand that this is the way of the future, and we want to be the leader in that. We really believe in both saving the economy and saving associations money, and allowing members to vote in the manner that they want to, and allowing notices to come up clearly in your computer versus all that paper, which is so scary.
And sometimes people are more confident at their computer, and I think a lot of times people don't want to go to these meetings because sometimes they could be a little violent.
They can be. They can be boisterous.
Yes.
People can be voicing their opinions in loud manners. Yeah. And emotional. And we try to serve them snacks, lots of cookies, coffee, try to make them happier. But yes, these meetings can be very contentious, and so there's always a faction that comes in negatively, and it's hard to get the positive faction to come in and sort of educate. And I think this electronic notice helps with communication, because people can be in their own home in their PJs, looking at the material and maybe reading it 4 times, because that's what it takes to understand.
Even for us, and
Right.
we know what it says.
And I think that's a valid point too. The Florida statutes are so confusing for us, and even for some attorneys. They'll say to me, Maureen, watch the comma. There's the devil's in the comma.
Yes, or the as, or
Right.
shall, or
Exactly. So I think this gives the homeowners a chance to really think about what they're doing, because it is important. It is, for most of us, your biggest investment could be your home, or maybe several homes, but still, it is a big investment. It is important what you're doing, and your board is there to lead you, but ultimately the membership makes the decision, and it doesn't change any of that. It just makes it a little easier for those that like electronics or travel.
So now I have been on my associations that I've dealt with over the last couple of years since they passed the electronic notice, having new residents that come in automatically sign it as soon as they come in, and they're fine with that, and we kind of explain it to them, and they're like, oh yes, don't send me any paper. You have both sides. Some say, don't
Right.
send me paper. No, I want everything on, so it helps both sides of those. It seems like the newer generation wants everything electronic. So
And we're both mothers of the newer generation, so we understand that. I believe that being proactive like you are, and if you do have the luxury of a sighted manager that's there and can actually sign you up, I think that's wonderful. It could be part of the welcome packet. It could even be part of the estoppel.
Estoppel, that's what I was going
Right,
to suggest.
just really get ahead of it, and I always say during that initial time when you have the homeowner and you're still holding a new homeowner's keys, like in saying of a new high-rise or something, that's when you get it all done. You got them there,
Right.
get their automatic debit, get them signed up for assessments, and get them signed up for electronic notice. I love it.
And possibly I would suggest that you have your attorney write up that electronic notice and voting form that they would be signing, just in case there's ever any
Absolutely. That unlicensed practice of law that a lot of board members like us to provide for them, we can't do it. We could get in a lot of trouble. We could actually lose our licensing. So.
And just in case somebody, especially when it's elections, that's the time when a lot of people will challenge a vote. So, that's why you really want to have all your T's crossed and the I's dotted so that your form looks good. Now, so let's say that I'm an association and I've never had anybody sign any of this paperwork, and we want to have some amendments done and quickly, and we want to do it electronic voting. How will you get those permission forms back?
So you have to engage your membership. So you have to have maybe a town hall and talk about it, and maybe answer all these scary questions like, I don't want to vote. I don't have a computer. They're coming. All those people are coming. I don't have a computer. You're taking away my right to vote. So get rid of all the scary stories at maybe a town hall. And at the same time, notice that board meeting, give it 48-hour notice, where an agenda item is the resolution to allow electronic notice, the resolution to allow electronic voting, and maybe have the attorney have the forms right there at that meeting. And then it's yet another knock on the door thing to get people to sign
before you actually do the vote. So because we want to accumulate as many of those forms as possible.
Yeah, we've been working on it since June in our associations. It is a real push for the annual meetings that happen towards the end of the year, and we're using a lot of us our budget meeting to get it started, because you have to 14-day notice for your budget meeting. That's where you attach that stuff and get it in there to them.
What are you seeing as kind of the average cost that might be involved in something like this?
So we actually ran the numbers on that. I'm glad you asked. So a typical 100-unit HOA spends up to $1,200 a year just on paper, and that isn't even costing postage. So that's your statutory notices. It doesn't include any collection notices or newsletters, just all that paper that goes out about the budget and the annual meeting.
Without doing the electronic voting.
Without doing the so you're
so
going to
if you were doing electronic voting, and let's say 50% of the 100, so let's say 50 of those 100 actually had electronic voting, you would save half of that. Plus, but there is a cost usually, unless you are using your attorney. I heard some of them may not. I don't know how they charge. But I had heard, and tell me if I'm wrong, it's around $400.
I've seen
And
it.
of course, I want to state that this is 2017, so if you're listening to this later and the prices go up, that may be
That's not our
cost
fault.
inflation.
Yeah, and I think it definitely, there is a cost involved, but I think the results are where we need to focus. So you were paying $1,200, now you're paying $400. There are some that aren't going to participate electronically, so they have to add in a couple hundred for them. So say you save half. Then at least you're actually improving your odds of obtaining your vote.
And,
that's the goal.
Just for your meeting, how many of us didn't have an annual meeting?
How many of us walk door to door because we don't want to renotice this meeting?
Right.
We don't actually want to come again. we like to come to your buildings, we like to come to your HOAs, but not 3 times for the same meeting.
I have to tell you a story. Whenever I asked Maureen to do this with me, she said, sure, we'll be 2 crazy blondes.
That's right. And we
Have
are.
fun.
Because we're in this industry.
Yes. So, well, Maureen, I want to thank you so much. I hope you come back with us. And
I would love to. I'd love to. I'm honored to be invited. This is
we're
great.
Excited. And if hopefully Maureen will come back and talk about some other things with us. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you very much.
This concludes episode 1. We hope you found it helpful and informative. As always, you can join us at camresource.info for more episodes, or go to our YouTube channel, Cam Resource. See you there.
Join us next time where we'll be talking about service animals and how they affect the community.
Hey, this microphone didn't add 10 pounds to me, did it?